Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Bloggers Creating Courses. Before we jump into the main part of the episode where we are interviewing the amazing Nami Clarke, there are a couple of things that I wanted to just update you on very quickly. So the first one is I have finally got my masterclass series launched. I am so super excited about it. If you follow me on social media, I know that I've been hinting at this for a long time, that I've been working on some secret projects and some really exciting things. And the masterclass series is just one of the amazing secret projects that I've been working on. So this is a series of business related masterclasses where we dive really deep into the real nuances and the things and the issues that you want answers to, basically, and don't want to spend ages searching on the internet for really bad advice, having to sift through and sort through what's good advice, what's bad. So we are kicking off the masterclass series with Confused to Compliant, which is something which I'm so excited about. We are going to be looking in this masterclass at everything to do with making your business compliant. We're looking at cookie notices, terms and conditions, client contracts, disclaimers. Oh my gosh, you name it, it is in there. Everything to do with policy writing, how to write your own policies, where to go if you want a bit of help writing your policies. It is going to be jam-packed. It is launching on the 22nd of September, and I do have an early bird discount if you want to grab 30% off your ticket to get lifetime access to that masterclass. And if you do want that early bird discount, the only way to get it is to direct message me on one of my social media platforms. So at Verity Songon on Instagram, on Twitter, or on LinkedIn, and I will give you that early bird discount. But that is only available to use until the 15th. So if you want to get on board with the brand new masterclass series, just jump in, send me a DM. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. Before we jump in, I want to give a shout out to the lovely Catherine in London, who has sent me a wonderful DM saying, I've listened to a few of your podcasts now and thought they were great, absolutely jam-packed with info. I will definitely be listening to the rest of them. Catherine, thank you so much for taking the time to message me. I love receiving reviews like this. So if you have been listening to the podcast, are enjoying it, please feel free to DM me or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. I would be absolutely over the moon. Now, to jump into today's episode, we are joined by the wonderful Nami Clarke, all the way from Australia. Nami Clarke refined her magic toolkit of copywriting, sales and content strategy, running a photography studio for 10 years in one of Melbourne's fancy postcodes. Today, through her workshops, signature course and one-to-one support, she helps digital course creators worldwide create more profitable launches with less stress. Nami's written work has been published by Mamma Mia, Elephant Journal, Huffington Post, and way more. But nobody likes a bragger. She lives in Bendigo, Australia. This episode is full of goodness. So if you're interested in finding more about profitable launches for your online course, or in fact anything to do with your online business, this is the episode for you. Let's dive in. Welcome to Bloggers Creating Courses, the podcast which will take you behind the scenes of creating an online course. I'm your host, Verity Songon, founder and education consultant of veritysongon.com. I'm so excited to help you create an online course that you are proud of and to be part of your journey to scale your business as an online course creator. Let's get into the episode. Nami, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I am really excited for you to be here. And I'm grinning a little bit as well, where I said I'm really excited because my husband ribs me all the time, because he said, I listen to your episodes and every single episode you start off with going, I'm so excited that you're here, but I'm just an excitable person. And I get amazing people, or I have the privilege of hosting amazing people like yourself on the podcast.
Oh,
so I do genuinely get excited. So I am excited for you to be here.
I can see and hear and feel that you are genuine. And I know, we've been chatting prior to hitting record, and I feel like we know each other ridiculously well already because we've been sharing lots. And I can see that your excitement is very genuine, as is mine. So thank you for having me.
Oh, bless you. Well, we have got an absolute amazing topic that we are going to be diving into today, because we're going to be talking about landing pages, sales pages, selling yourselves, because so many people in the online business world, it's difficult putting yourself out there. It's difficult trying
Yeah.
to sell your product. You have your product, you're so proud of it, whatever it might be, a course or service, and it's challenging to then turn around to people and be like, well, buy it from me, because you've put all this love and creation into it, and you're thinking it should be obvious why you're
Yes.
buying it from me. But you do need to take people on a bit of a journey, and a lot of that starts off with your sales page, which you were a complete expert in. So I'm really excited, there's that word again, but I'm really excited to dive into this topic. But before we do, please introduce yourselves to our lovely audience. Tell us who you are, what it is you do, all that good stuff about you.
Thank you, Verity. Well, I'm Nami. I am a copywriter, and I love helping mostly digital course creators have more profitable launches and less stressful launches, because like you just said, it's one thing to build out a course, it's another mountain to climb to sell it. And often I chat with so many course creators or business owners in general that they know they're sitting on something amazing. They know that clients or customers out there need what they have, but there is often a huge gap between them, their service or their course or their program, whatever it is they're selling, and their customers. So I like to bring those things together in a way that feels fun, that doesn't feel icky and salesy, and that gives them a huge confidence boost as well. Often the thing people think that they are selling to their customers isn't really what their clients or customers want to buy. So I help my clients not just find more customers and sell to those people, but understand what it is their clients really want to buy from them. And also I help them look at things like pricing and how they build up their audience in the first place, and often simplifying what they sell and all sorts of different things. So that is a long-winded answer to who I am and what I do.
I love that though. So much, such a wealth of information and goodness that we're going to dive into. So let's kick off with that then. And the first thing I'm going to ask you is about sales pages, because I think this is the thing that people trip themselves up on probably the most. So where do you even start when you want to write a sales page, and not just a sales page, but a sales page that actually converts and gets you sales as well?
Okay, I'm so glad that we're talking about this. But just before you and I started recording, it's evening here, and I was picking up my daughter from a friend's house, and they were saying, what have you got on tonight? And I said, I'm chatting to Verity about sales pages, and they their eyes glazed over, and I'm like, no, this is the stuff I love. So I'm really excited to dive into this question. But in terms of where to even start with a sales page, one of the most important things that I think a copywriter writing them, or the business owner, if they're DIYing their sales page, is to understand what it is they're really selling. So I mentioned that before, understanding what your client really wants to buy from you, because nobody ever wakes up thinking, all of my problems would be solved if I could just buy a course on X, Y, and Z. So looking at what happens after the course, or the transformation that course or that service or that product delivers, that is what a client wants to buy from you. So I worked with a course creator a little while back. They were running an amazing course on Google Ads, but that's what they were pitching, a course on Google Ads. And the appeal just wasn't there. I think a lot of people have course fatigue, for starters, and no one really wants to know about Google Ads. It's just a means to an end. But running a more profitable business, which is what this course was essentially helping them achieve, that was the transformation. That's where we really got some traction. So ask yourself, what happens after someone completes my course? What results can they expect to get from it once they put these things into action. And the thing that you're selling is just a vehicle to get somebody from A, which is their state now, their problem state, to B, which is that transformation or their goal state. If you can answer what that is, that's what you should be selling on your sales page.
I love that so much. It's about this transformation, isn't it? And what you're really able to give somebody and what they're able to take from it. Because I love this idea as well about what you were saying about Google Ads, because yes, that does sound like a dull course to me. There's probably somebody now screaming at the podcast being like, no, Google is really interesting to learn about, that kind of thing. But to me, it doesn't quite sit with exactly what I'd want to do of an evening. But as you said, if you suddenly sold it to me of Verity, this is going to be a way that you're going to completely transform your business, I'd be like, yeah, I'm into that course. I'll pay you how much money you want for that course.
Yeah, absolutely.
A 3-minute YouTube video. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I love this about selling that transformation as opposed to just the product. Absolutely.
That's right. And look, it's when I started copywriting, people would ask me, what do you do? And I would say, well, I'm a copywriter, which is true, I am. But when I started saying or telling people that I help course creators have more profitable and less stressful launches, that is the result of the copywriting. And as a result, that transformation is it's priceless. I know that sounds corny and cliched, but before I started framing what I did in that way, people would say to me, well, how much do you charge per word? Or how much do you charge for an about page or a sales page? But when you start framing things around results and outcomes and goals being accomplished, that is also where you can not just justify your price point, but price point becomes less relevant. You'll find better clients who aren't price shopping, and you also won't have to deal with that feeling of, oh, my course has this many modules, or my service has this many touch points, or I spend this much time with a client, therefore it's worth that much. When you're starting to understand the transformation that you can deliver to somebody, it's where as a business owner, you start to go, wow, what I am offering is so valuable. And yes, that price I'm charging is entirely justifiable. And that is the stuff that can really change your business. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that point that you made as well about it's not about the number of or the amount of content that you've got in there.
Yeah.
Because I had this conversation with somebody just recently where they were saying to me, oh, well, I've got X amount of videos. Isn't that great? And I was like, yes, but also no, because it's about the information and the content.
That's right.
And the value, not the amount. So I just bought a course last night, for example. It's only got one video in the whole thing. That's it. But I know that the content and the value that I'm getting from it is going to get me from A to B in that particular topic. It doesn't need to be 19 videos long because it serves its purpose. But the other thing I want to pick up on what you just said is you mentioned about pricing courses, because this is something that people get so tripped up about, and there are so many different ways that you can go about pricing an online course. But sometimes it can feel a little bit that you're just pulling a number out of a hat, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have around pricing your online course?
Yeah. Look, I go into a lot of detail around this in my own course, which is called Course Launch Confidence. But one of the best ways that you can start, and there is a bit of an art and a science to it all at the same time. But the first thing I would look at is, what is that transformation worth? Start looking at those numbers first of all. The next thing I would look at is what is some comparisons. So how much would somebody pay to work with you to achieve that same result one-on-one? The other really important comparison to make is, what would somebody spend elsewhere to get the same or similar kind of result? And that may be less, but that may be 10 times more. So you'll start to get like this overview of, or a bracket of where you could position your price point between all of that. But the other thing that's really important, once you understand that information, that's important information to share with your client on your sales page. You're starting to price anchor that way. So if you're pitching, say, just I'm plucking numbers out of the air here, but your course is priced at $5,000, just for argument's sake. Someone reading your sales page, the only others price that they have in mind as they're reading your sales page would be zero. I could either buy Nami's or Verity's or whoever's course for $5,000 or spend zero and not buy it. When you start to bring other bigger numbers into the equation, like, oh, well, to work with Verity or Nami one-on-one would cost me 5 times that, this $5,000 course is a great investment comparatively. Or I could go to an agency and spend $50,000, or I could buy this course for $5,000. So you need to, you can use those kinds of comparisons or that framing to price your own course, but it's really important that you relay that information to your reader as well, so you can start to help them understand the kind of value that you're delivering. Yeah,
Absolutely. I absolutely love as well what you were saying about making sure that you've got the pricing on the sales page, because that's something that I'm very passionate about. It's actually having the price. I'm not saying it has to be front and center, the first thing that you see, but having it on the sales page somewhere. Because what I've been seeing of late, I don't know if you've been seeing similar, is this kind of shift to a lot of people not putting any prices anywhere. And then it's not until you click the button that says, enroll me or I want in or something, and then they suddenly get taken through to the checkout page, and then people are like, whoa, that's
yeah,
how much. And that doesn't necessarily sit very well with me, because I
yeah,
want somebody to know that if you're going to spend $27, if it's going to be $5,000, whatever it
yeah.
is that you're going to spend with me, I want you to know. I don't want to waste your time basically going through a sales page, rereading it several times, looking at all these other bits of my website, really thinking, yes, I'm going to spend my money with her, only to then go to the next page and be like, well, that's completely out of my budget, or that's
That's
just not what I was thinking at all.
exactly, and yeah, and that's exactly it. When you talk somebody through comparisons, or the ROI or the cost of inaction, or what kind of result they can expect from completing the course, and what that might be worth in a monetary sense, you're setting up expectations. So if you can do that in your sales page, you don't need to rely on any kind of tactics to get people to take that next step. And that's what's happening there, Verity, when you say you click that next button, go, whoa, that is not what I was expecting. You need to manage expectations throughout that sales page, so that when they do see your price, regardless of what it is, your reader or your potential client goes, oh, that is so much lower than what I was expecting, because you're setting the bar up here. And I'm not talking about overinflating course value either. I see lots of sales pages where, a course is worth $35,000 and all of a sudden you can buy it for $799, and that's where your brain's going, hang on, something's not quite right here. But if you can bring in stats and genuine figures to support or prove that your course is great value, you manage expectations really well. It's the same in any relationship. Managing expectations is absolutely critical. And if you fail to do that, that is where you will repel clients, and you'll get that reaction of, whoa, no thanks, not for me.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
guess what you were saying about doing that homework beforehand when it comes to putting your pricing together, because actually it's interesting that you said that, because just yesterday I was looking at some templates and courses from one course creator, and they did exactly that. It was they went through all these things, and they ended up valuing it something like, I don't know, 40,000. It was a ridiculous,
Yeah.
some people won't think that's ridiculous, but to me, I was like, that's a tiny fraction more than I was expecting to spend. They
Yes.
valued $30,000-$40,000, something like that. And then they were like, but it's yours today for $179. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
Is it really worth the $40,000 then? Or are you just so rich that you just don't need
That's right.
the other
Yeah.
30,000
Yeah.
that, I was like, something's not quite adding up here. It's either not got the value that you're saying, or you are just plucking figures out.
Mm.
Or, in fairness to them, maybe they just hadn't sold me the journey well enough as to how they got to that
That's
valuation.
right. Yes. Yep. And any of that kind of, when someone is reading a sales page and their brain is throwing out those kinds of hang on a minute type questions, what is happening there is that we're creating sales friction or buyer friction. And every time that happens, we're reducing the likelihood of that client buying. So it's really important that, you eliminate that friction as much as possible. And there are ways that you can do that, of course, which I'll explain to you, but managing expectations, particularly around pricing, is one of those elements to get right. But there's, like I said, there is no magic answer for it. There is an element of test it and see. And I see course creators get caught up in that cycle of overthinking and overthinking and overthinking and not putting stuff out there. A launch is one of many, and it takes multiple launches to figure out what works well for you. And I hate to say it, but in amongst those launches, things are going to change. The marketplace will continue to change. Our expectation of what a course is worth, or what a bonus template is worth, or all of that stuff is going to continue to change as well. So it's a moving, living, breathing beast. And you've sometimes just got to give yourself into that. And what's the worst that can happen? A launch mightn't go as well as you'd hoped, and you get in there and try another one and tweak your pricing up or down. Could be, it's just testing and seeing what works sometimes. Yeah.
Definitely. It is that trial and error. And I'm glad you brought up that point, actually, because somebody who I follow on Instagram, who is, she's an Instagram coach, and she's absolutely amazing. And every time she launches a course, she's making like 5-6 figures, something like that. But she put up a very raw post earlier this week, and she said, my first course launch, I made $17.
Yeah.
Like, that's humbling. That is humbling. But she said, I could have quit, or I just trial and error. I kept
That's
going.
right.
Up my, her email list, her Instagram following, all the rest of it, and look at where she is now. I think sometimes we can be a bit too quick to say it didn't work. I'm going to completely shift gear and change projects. Like, do you need to shift gear, or do you just need to realign a little bit and go back and have a, like you said, look at that copy, look at that pricing, and doing that homework. As you said, the market might have shifted.
Exactly. And sometimes I see sales pages, people will send me and say, well, fix this. What is wrong with it? And a lot of the time, it's like a house. It's got good bones. It's got some good features. There are just some elements missing to really make it pop. And they can be the things that either make or break a launch. One of those other things is social proof. Social proof is one of those things that I often see is either entirely missing from sales pages. People underestimate the value or the power of social proof. Other times there is plenty of social proof. It's not the quantity of quotes or testimonials, but the quality of them. And not to say that they're not real or legitimate, but the information or the feedback that client has provided just doesn't really tell the next future customer the things necessary to motivate them to buy. One of the ways that you can ask clients for the kinds of reviews or feedback that will really inspire your next future customer to take action is to go back to that transformational stuff that we just spoke about and ask them, how were you feeling, or what things were happening for you, and get specific. So in your relationship, in your business, for your health, whatever kind of space that you're in, what was happening for you around XYZ before you worked with me or took this course. And then the next question should be, how are you feeling now, or what does your business or relationship or your Google ad results or whatever the case may be, get as specific as possible, since taking my course or since working with me. And they'll provide you I was so frustrated by X, Y, and Z before I did this. And your future customer will be saying, that's exactly the stuff that I'm struggling with right now. And their brain will be saying, you're in the right place. This sales page is appropriate for you, or this course is appropriate for you because it solves these problems. And then when the past client talks about the goals or the things that they've accomplished, those are likely going to be what your next customer will want to achieve as well. So if they can see that the A state and the B state reflects theirs from your client reviews, they're the kinds of things that you want to feature on your sales page. There is nothing worse than plucking up the courage to reach out to one of your past clients, say, "Oh, can you write me a testimonial, or can you give me some feedback?" And you receive something like, "Verity was so lovely to work with." And it tells you nothing. You could we could take out your name, Verity, and put any person's name in there, and the sentence would make sense, but it would have no impact whatsoever. So you want that social proof to speak to the problems and the goals of your future customers. That is one of the best things that you can feature on your sales page.
I absolutely love that. I think if anybody takes nothing else away from this episode, it's about getting good quality testimonials and feedback as sales page. I absolutely love that. And there's another thing I want to pick up on what you were saying there is it's building your sales page is almost like building your house. And that got me thinking as you were talking there. I was like, well, everybody builds their house and decorates their house slightly differently. And I think sometimes when we put our sales pages together and we put our courses together or whatever our service or product is, and we kind of think, right, we're appealing to everybody in X, Y, or Z niche, for example. But when you said that you were comparing it almost to a house, then it's like, well, how I've decorated my house, somebody else might come in and go, oh, that's absolutely awful. And equally, I might go into somebody else's house and think that's terrible as well. And it's remembering that just because you're targeting an audience in a particular niche, your product or service is not going to suit everybody in that niche. And that's absolutely okay, because how you're going to dress up your course is going to be very different to how a competitor might dress up, the same service or product or course. But that's okay that you're not for everybody. And I just liked that comparison to a house, because I thought, well, you decorate a house differently, so you're going to provide your product or service differently as well, which I really like.
Yeah. And, also on the house, and I love architecture. I like that I didn't even mean to do that, but like any house, it has to have good foundations. There is everything that every house, there are things that every house needs to have before you get to the fun and pretty stage. I love the fun and pretty stage as much as anyone with homes and with sales pages. I love tricking them up. I love getting, having fun with copy and getting some personality and some oomph in there and injecting a bit of humor. But if it doesn't have the great foundations that it needs and particular elements that it needs to have, it will not function. It will fall down. It will fail to provide. So it's you can have the pretty, but you've got to have good foundations there in the first place.
Absolutely. And I think that goes back to the point that you see some people and they've got the most basic website going and it's not the most attractive. They haven't used the the latest theme and all these colours and bells and whistles and what have you, but people still buy from them.
Absolutely.
They are selling the transformation, as you said, as opposed to look at this flashy website with sparkles and glitter. And, oh, that sounds quite pretty, actually. I want to go and make a website with sparkles and glitter. But you get my point. People don't buy from sparkles and glitter. They buy because of the transformation and because the where you're going to be getting them to and how you can provide them with help there, which I guess then leads on nicely to my next question. If you're not going to create a website with sparkles and glitter, which I'm very sad that I can't physically right now, but what is the most what is the most profitable way to market your business that maybe a lot of people aren't doing?
Yeah. Look, hands down, one of the most profitable ways, one of the best returns on your time, and for very, very little spend, is email marketing. That, of course, requires you to actively build your email database, your subscriber base, as you are building out your course. A lot of course creators I talk to say, Nami, I've got this course, it's ready to go, and they don't have a list to market to. So building that up slowly but surely should be a primary focus. Email as well, and I'm certainly not saying not to jump on social media. You and I was talking to you before we recorded today, and I was saying to you how social media just drains. It drains me. It drains my energy. But email, on the other hand, it's a one-on-one conversation, and perhaps again that's the introvert in me, but it also feels very real and personal for the reader, and it allows you to show up so long as someone says, yep, you're welcome to come in my inbox, and you have their address right, you're going to show up in front of a lot more people than you will be able to reach through your social media channels. Email marketing, it trumps social media any day of the week. Any day of the week. And it's also really important to keep your audience warm between launches. Even if you're only launching once or twice a year and there's big gaps in between, keeping up that regular contact just to stay in someone's, stay top of mind. And you don't have to be selling the whole time. You can just be checking in with people and letting them know this is what I'm up to, or hey, I'd love your feedback on this, or hey, here's a quick tip or a hack I learnt the other day. I think you'd find it really useful. Those are the kinds of things you can be doing to keep your audience warm between launches, and then building up that runway when it's time to hit go on your next round.
I think that's a fantastic tip about keeping people warm with just useful information, treating people like human beings, because I don't know
Yes.
about you, but the email lists that I've signed up to, when it is just buy this product, here's another product,
Yeah.
it takes a couple of weeks and then I just unsubscribe from them, because it ends up feeling like you don't really care about me, you just
Yes.
care about what I can give to you. And that wasn't why I subscribed in the first place. In comparison, there's another list that I'm a part of, and the content creator, she emails probably about 2 or 3 times a week. But I actually
Yeah.
quite like getting her emails, because it's hints and tips, or I actually read this article, maybe you'll like it, I listened to this podcast. And then she'll tell me maybe every few weeks, oh, by the way, I've got this course going on, or this. But I don't feel like she's constantly thinking about what's in my email list bank account that could come into my bank account.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. And look, we're talking about courses, but also services and products as well. You can be writing to your email subscriber list once a week and say, hey, here's something funny that happened to me during the week, or I don't know, I've got this planned for the weekend. You can email a second time in the week and say, hey, I'm working on this module inside my course. It could be released in 3 months' time, but you can be constantly planting those seeds and using the course that you're about to sell as an amazing resource to kind of fill up your email subjects as you go, rather than go, oh my God, what am I going to write about this week? Or what, excuse me, what am I going to sell this week? You don't always have to be selling it. It can be a couple of paragraphs. People are time poor as well. So you don't want to be sending out essays. Your reader just won't have time to go through them and absorb it and apply it and digest it all. Sometimes a couple of paragraphs is all you need to be sending out to keep your audience warm and engaged.
Absolutely. I guess then that leads really nicely onto the final point that I want to talk about.
Are we on the final point already, Verity? I can't.
Sorry, we can keep going. You can keep going if you want.
I just warmed up, but no,
I'm having a lot of fun, I have to say. But in all fairness, we will probably take a while going over this point, though, because I want to dive into a little bit about why business owners hate selling themselves and what
Yes.
we can do instead. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an anecdote here to start this one off. I met with a I say a colleague, she's a fellow business owner, recently for coffee. And we were reflecting on how much we hate selling ourselves. We're just like, these are our service. People should just
Just buy
intuitively
it.
know why they need to come to us. Exactly, just buy from us. Because both of us, our backgrounds are as registered nurses. I'm a general adult nurse, she's a mental health nurse. And one of the things that we were saying is that when we did our training, you learn communication, but it's communication about how to interact with your service users and their families and colleagues and all the rest of it. You don't learn communication in how to sell yourself, because like it or lump it, when I was doing clinical ward work, it didn't matter if you didn't like me. If I was assigned to your bay for the day, if you were my patient caseload, because I was an emergency assessment, so we just, the wards were all divided up into bays. And if you were allocated your 6 patients, those were the 6 patients that had you for the next 12 hours. I didn't need to go in at any point and say, Mr. X, I need to convince you why it's a good idea that I'm your nurse for the next 12 hours of your life. Mr. X just got me as his nurse for the next 12 hours because that was how the allocations worked. So I guess what I'm saying is that we were reflecting on how our previous lives, quote unquote, even though there's a lot of transferable skills, what it didn't set us up for was selling, because in our nursing careers, we never had to sell ourselves and convince people why they needed us. People were in hospital, they got us, we carried on with their care plan, whatever, and that. And that's just how it rolled. And I suppose there's a lot of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, whatever term we want to use, who do come from kind of a quote unquote previous life where maybe they didn't have to sell themselves, and this idea of selling themselves can feel maybe either just not right, it can feel a bit sleazy, it can feel a bit icky, to use one of your words that I know you've used before. So why do you think people hate selling themselves, and what can they do instead to make it feel a bit more less icky, for want of a better phrase?
So I think sales has a bad, it just has a bad reputation. I think because there's that underlying kind of feeling around that there's something shady going on. Sales equals the snakeskin oil salesman, and I think it all harks back to that. But the way I look at selling, and it's really interesting, that story you were sharing, when I was listening to you going, Mr. X doesn't get to choose who his nurse is. I don't need to sell to him, but he's already been sold on the fact that he needs to be in hospital in the first place. The sale has happened. Do you know what? He's gone, yep, that's a pain. I have a pain point, quite literally. This is what I need to solve it. And in a way, you're part of the process or service that solves that problem. So it's like any course.
Back to that friend and tell her that now.
Yes.
We were part of the problem. There was a sales process.
Absolutely. And it's like when somebody purchases a course, the course creator delivers that, but they don't really have to justify why they've included this module or that. They'll explain, this is what I'm giving you, and here's the problem that we're going to fix. It's like Verity is your nurse, and this is the problem that they're going to fix for Mr. X. The way, and I love that you've used nursing in that analogy too, Verity, because the way that I look at selling is it is a means to support and serve and solve a problem for my client. There is just a price tag attached to it, and it has to, because you can't do it for free. It's impossible. We all have families to support or businesses that we want to grow in order to serve other people, and we should be rewarded for our skills and our knowledge and our expertise. But when you are able to, and it all comes back to this transformation, when you are able to look at what you can do in a greater sense, and you're not just selling videos that go for X amount of minutes, or workbooks or templates, or, like I said before, the number of hours that you would spend with a client, or the number of words on the page. You're not selling those things. The reason why we do what we do should tie back into your sales pitch. And when you can come from that place of supporting and serving, you can kind of, I guess, detach yourself from, not detach yourself. It's getting late here, so my brain is starting to fry. But selling feels good, is what I'm getting at. When you can come from a place of supporting and serving, selling feels good. I'll tell you a really quick story before my brain completely turns to mush. But I was at home. I work from home the other day, and there was a knock at my door in the middle of the day, and I immediately thought, oh, great, door-to-door salesperson. And I opened up the door, and there was this old man, Peter, and he had a high vis. He would have been he should have been retired, but he was obviously an active kind of guy. He was in his high vis and his sun hat, and he introduced himself to me, and he said, we'd exchanged pleasantries, and he knew my name, and he said, Nami, I'm going around. You might have noticed that I've started painting the house numbers on the curb side in your street. And I had noticed it, and I thought he'd skipped ours, but here Peter was, and he's come back, and he said, here's my permit from the council, and here's my ABN number, and showed me all of the cards, and he said, now I can paint yours, you'll get 2 numbers, right? So here's the stuff that he's selling me. It'll take me about this long. It should last you these many years. So again, stuff. But what I found fascinating was what Peter said next. And he said to me, years ago, my mum, bless her, she had a stroke. And we had these numbers painted on our curbside, and the ambulance found our house without any trouble at all. And I just thought, wow, Peter, it cost me $15 to have these numbers painted on my curb. But the why, the benefit to my family, in case of an emergency, it was a no-brainer. And I thought, oh, my goodness, he has, I'd said yes before he even shared that part of the story with me. But even though Peter was simply painting numbers on the curb, he was coming from a place of supporting and serving. And it just blew my mind. And I've been waiting, Verity, you're the first person I've been able to share that story with, because my husband would have just gone, well, you're nerding out again over sales strategies. But I just thought that is the perfect example, your why and the reason and how you want to support people. It doesn't have to be profound. You don't need to be, completely changing people's lives, but it can be one small act of support or care that can make sales way less icky and make sales feel really, really good.
I love that story. First of all, I hope that Peter's mum was fine and made a recovery.
Well, I think she has passed on since, but not because of that particular episode.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's the nurse in me immediately thinking, oh my gosh, what happened to her?
Exactly. And so you're not going, okay, well, Peter, what kind of paints are you using? And, is your work neat? And do you have any referrals that I can see? You're not worried about any of that, because we're looking at a much, much bigger picture here. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yes, I have to take my hat off to him, because I do think that's an awful story, but used in a very, very, a very clever way, because you do then start thinking to yourself, well, what if I fell down the stairs and it was only the kids that were at home, and the kids had to make I'm going to say 999 call. Is it 911 in Australia?
Oh, we're 000.
000. Okay, so yeah. I should never have an accident when I go to Australia, because I don't know how to phone for an ambulance. Note to self. But the point is that, you phone the emergency services. If the kids have to do it, then, that's just, it gives you just that little bit more reassurance that you're
Absolutely.
Like, right, somebody can come and find. And back to those points that you were making as well, it's about what is that transformation? What are the benefits? And I'm not saying that everybody has to dig deep and find a really soul-destroying story such as Peter's mum.
No.
What is somebody going to get out? What is making your sale human? What's humanizing your sale?
Yeah.
As opposed to just having that figure at the end.
Exactly. And it's that stuff, clearly for me, that story has stuck in my mind. And it's stories like that, humanizing what we do beyond the transactions and the stuff is what we remember and we go back to it. And also it's likely that there are a heap of other service providers or manufacturers or course creators sharing the space with you. If you can cut through all of that noise by just sharing a story that sticks, that is going to have people go, oh, I remember I was chatting to such and such about that, and or there's the website for them. Otherwise, you just will get lost in that sea of competitors. And it doesn't have to be a crazy, huge, I changed the world type story. It can be something really, really simple. Because I know a lot of business owners get stressed about finding their why. What's my why? But it could be something really quite small and lovely, like Peter's mum being able to get quicker access to the ambulance. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that story. I need to somehow work that story into the show notes. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to fit. It's such a lovely, well, it's not a lovely story for Peter's mum, but you know, it's lovely that he was able to help support people further along, you know, in his business because of that.
That's right. Yeah. And you know, and I'm sure Peter knew that it was a good sales strategy as well. He was sharp.
He knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing, but it was genuine and it was real. I have no doubt that it was completely true, what he told me. But I love that he ran through his quality. He ran through all of the social proof. He ran through the stuff that I would get. He backed it up with his why. Yeah.
Yeah,
he used comparisons. He price anchored me as well, Verity. He was saying, now you'll have other guys come around, they don't have anything to do with the council and they don't have permits, and they'll charge you $80. So in my head I'm going, right, $80. Because if he'd said to me it's $15 and I went, my brain would go, I can either spend $15 with you or zero and be completely happy with the number that is on my letterbox. But he price anchored me as well. He was a good salesman. I've got his number on my desk, actually. Maybe you should interview him.
I was going to say, maybe we should get him on the podcast. We could do like a 3-way conversation with him or something. I like that. We'll probably never find this bloke again.
He loved to chat though, Verity. He liked to chat more than I did, so it would be a long podcast.
I love that so much. Well, maybe.
Word of warning.
Yeah, listeners out there, if you like the idea of us tracking down Peter, which would obviously be Nami's task, me not being in Australia at all, let us know. Let me know on Instagram if we need to find Peter. And oh my gosh, I could just see that now. Anyway, right.
Peter would love it. He would love it. He would be there. He would be there with bells on.
Or paint, either or.
And paint.
I love this. And paint. I love this. Right, well, we have covered so much, and I think we've really run home the importance of the landing page, sales pages, and how to effectively sell. So thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Oh, you're so welcome.
With you. It's been absolutely brilliant. For our listeners who want to find out more about you, your services, get in contact, how can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so the easiest way to find me in the big wide world is just through my website, which is Nami Clarke. Clarke is spelled with an E, NamiClarke.com. On Instagram, I'm the same, at Nami Clarke. I hang out there very occasionally. But yeah, if anyone listening has any questions, wants to chat, introduce themselves to me, there are no silly questions I should add. Please get in touch. Like you and I were saying, Verity, I really nerd out on this stuff. And I'm always open to chatting with other people who nerd out on this stuff as well. So, yeah, website is the best place to find me.
Fantastic. We will have all of that linked down in the show notes below. And Nami, thank you so much for your time. I have had an absolutely fantastic time chatting with you.
Thank you.
Having you on. Thank you.
Let's do it again soon.
Oh, yes, definitely. With Peter.
Yes, with Peter.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Bloggers Creating Courses. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, leave a rating and a review. Ratings and reviews help us to reach more people who want to build and scale their online course, so you're really helping to widen the support for our blogging community. To catch all of the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram @VeritySongon. I'll see you next time. Happy content creating.